The HOA banned my emotional support dog, claiming he didn't fit their image. They didn't know my wife spent her life fighting for civil rights, and now she's fighting them. If you've ever had a neighbor or HOA try to control what matters most to you, hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. I love seeing your stories. The problems began just 2 weeks after we moved into the Evergreen Pines subdivision, a community wrapped in white picket fences, HOA patrols, and a fake sense of harmony. My name is James Walker, and when I say we were excited to move in, I mean it. My wife and I had finally saved enough to buy a peaceful home away from city noise, with a small fenced backyard and enough space for our beloved chocolate lab, Diesel. Diesel isn't just a dog. He's my registered emotional support animal, certified through my VA doctor after my return from service overseas. He helps me when my anxiety peaks. He grounds me when I feel the onset of panic. And in many ways, he's saved my life more times than I can count. We knew Evergreen Pines had an HOA, but nothing about their rules had mentioned a ban on support animals. In fact, I'd submitted the proper ESA paperwork with our move-in application. Everything seemed fine, until Kara, the HOA's compliance officer, showed up one morning while I was in the yard playing fetch with Diesel. She had the typical clipboard, the thick sunglasses, and that tight-lipped smile of someone who thought their authority was divine. "That's a beautiful dog," she said, then added, "but unfortunately, he's not on the approved breed list." I explained he was a registered emotional support animal. She raised a perfectly plucked eyebrow and said, "That may work in apartments, but in Evergreen Pines, we have standards." I didn't respond with anger. Instead, I let Amara know. My wife isn't just intelligent. She is a civil rights attorney who has spent over a decade fighting discriminatory housing laws, especially those against people with disabilities. She smiled as I explained what happened and calmly pulled out her laptop. That evening, Amara sent an official request to the HOA board, attaching Diesel's ESA registration, my VA medical letter, and a formal notice that denying accommodation could be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Karen responded with a chillingly brief email. "Our HOA does not recognize emotional support animals as medical necessity. Dog must be removed within 14 days. That's when Amara went from calm to calculated. She prepared a detailed complaint to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, citing the HOA's discriminatory actions and referencing multiple legal precedents. Then she posted a copy of the letter on the Evergreen Community Portal, with a message. "No HOA is above federal law." The post exploded. Within 24 hours, dozens of residents, many of whom had stayed silent about previous HOA overreach, commented in support. Some shared their own stories of being bullied by Karen. One neighbor, a woman with MS, admitted she hid her own support cat for fear of fines. The story went viral locally, picked up by a regional disability advocacy group and a local news station. When the HOA tried to silence Amara by removing her post, she opposed it with a screenshot of their takedown attempt and quoted the First Amendment. Then, she invited the news crew to our home for a live interview, with Diesel proudly sitting beside us in his service vest. The broadcast aired that Friday, and Karen's smug smile vanished from every HOA meeting afterward. The HUD formally launched an investigation, and weeks later, a federal mediator arrived in Evergreen Pines. Karen tried to defend herself with vague bylaw, language, and neighborhood character excuses, but Amara dismantled every argument with poise. The HOA was forced into a legal settlement. Not only could Diesel stay, the HOA had to rewrite their guidelines to comply with the Fair Housing Act, complete disability accommodation training, and issue a formal apology. Karen tried to quietly resign, but by then, the damage was done. A recall vote was triggered, and over 70% of residents voted to remove her. In the end, my dog stayed, my anxiety eased, and my wife, the woman who fought for strangers every day, became the hero of her own home. Now Diesel struts through Evergreen Pines like he owns it, and in a way, he does. Because when you try to take away someone's lifeline, and they happen to be married to a civil rights attorney, you don't just lose, you get re-educated by federal law. Live on the evening news.